Evelyn sat by the window, her fingers tracing the raindrops that slid down the glass. Outside, New York City hummed like a restless heart, cars honking, lights flickering, life moving fast. Inside her apartment, everything was still, quiet, almost too still. The silence felt like a second skin she had learned to live in. She had just received the message from her parents: Harry has agreed. The wedding will be in 2 months. Her chest felt heavy, like someone had set a stone on her heart. Harry, the name was familiar but not close. She had met him only twice, once at her cousin's engagement, and once on a Zoom call set up by their parents. He seemed nice, polite, kind, maybe, but he was a stranger, and she was about to marry him. Evelyn came from a traditional Indian American family that believed love came after marriage, not before. Her parents, immigrants who had worked hard for stability, trusted that arranged marriages brought safety, respect, and balance. But Evelyn, who was 27 and living in Brooklyn, had always wanted love, the kind that made you laugh in the rain, fight in the night, and hold on in the morning. Yet love had betrayed her once. 3 years ago, she had fallen for a musician named Liam. He was wild and free, everything her family warned her against. And when her father fell sick, Liam had left, unable to handle the weight of her grief and responsibility. Since then, Evelyn had built walls. So when her parents suggested Harry, she didn't fight much. Maybe, she thought, love wasn't meant to be chosen. Maybe it was meant to arrive quietly, like rain that soaked the ground before you noticed. Harry Singh was 32, a software engineer in San Francisco. He wasn't the kind of man who filled a room with his presence, but rather the one who blended into it, observant, calm, and thoughtful. He, too, had agreed to the marriage out of respect for his parents. His father had once told him, "Love is not found, son. It is built, brick by brick." Harry didn't quite believe in that, but he didn't have any better belief to hold on to either. When he first saw Evelyn on the screen, she wore a soft blue sweater, her hair tied back loosely, her eyes distant. She didn't flirt or smile much. She was polite, like someone carrying a memory they couldn't put down. Something about that sadness drew him. It was a small ceremony, simple, elegant, filled with quiet music and polite laughter. Evelyn wore a white lace gown, and Harry a dark suit. They exchanged vows that felt rehearsed, yet when Harry looked into her eyes, something unspoken passed between them. After the guests left and the lights dimmed, they sat in silence in the hotel suite. Harry broke the silence first. "I know this isn't what you dreamed of," he said gently. Evelyn looked up. "And you?" He smiled faintly. "I didn't dream much. That was the beginning, not of love, but of understanding." Their life together began like a quiet film, slow scenes of shared breakfast, mismatched schedules, polite check-ins. Harry worked long hours. Evelyn started painting again, something she had stopped after her father's death. They weren't unhappy, but they weren't close either. One night, Harry came home late. Evelyn was on the couch, her sketchbook open. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "I don't sleep much these days," she said softly. He sat beside her, watching her draw. "That's beautiful," he murmured, pointing to a painting of two hands reaching toward each other but never touching. "It's about love," she said. "The kind that almost happens but doesn't." Harry didn't know why, but the sentence hit him like a soft blow. Weeks passed, and small things began to change. Harry started bringing her coffee in the mornings. Exactly how she liked it, 1 sugar, no milk. Evelyn began leaving him little notes, reminders, jokes, doodles. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, Evelyn burned her hand while cooking. Harry rushed over, grabbed her hand, and held it under cool water. His touch lingered, warm, gentle, steady. For a moment, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in years: safety. Their eyes met, and neither spoke. But something in the silence shifted, like a door quietly opening inside both their hearts. Love didn't arrive like lightning. It arrived slowly, softly, in gestures. Harry would fix the kitchen sink while Evelyn played music in the background. Evelyn would wait for him at the window when he came home late. They started sharing their pasts, not all at once, but in small, vulnerable pieces. One night, Harry found Evelyn crying quietly while watching an old video of her father. Without a word, he wrapped his arms around her. She didn't resist. She leaned in, the way one leans into shelter after a long storm. In that embrace, something unspoken was said: "I'm here." That was the first time she let him hold her without fear. Months turned into a year. Their marriage, once arranged by others, had begun to build its own roots. They went on small trips, a drive to the coast, a walk through an art museum, a movie night at home. Evelyn laughed more. Harry began to write poetry again, something he hadn't done since college. It wasn't a dramatic kind of love. It was gentle, quiet, and deeply human. One evening, they danced in their living room, barefoot, the city lights filtering through the curtains. The song was slow, almost sad. Evelyn looked up at Harry and whispered, "Do you ever think we were meant to meet?" He smiled. "No, but I'm glad we did." Life, as it does, shifted again. Evelyn got an offer to display her art in a gallery, in London. It was her dream, one she'd buried long ago. But accepting it meant moving away for 6 months. Harry encouraged her. "You have to go," he said. "You've waited for this." "But it's so far," she whispered. He took her hand. Love isn't about holding tight. It's about letting the other breathe. The night before she left, they sat in bed, facing each other. "If distance changes us?" she asked. Harry smiled sadly. "Then maybe it will remind us how close we were." London was grey and cold. Evelyn's days were filled with art, new people, new air, but at night, the emptiness settled in. Harry would call her every evening. They'd talk about small things, what he cooked, what she painted, what the weather felt like. But sometimes, they just stayed quiet on the call, listening to each other breathe. One day, she opened her email and found a poem Harry had written. "Greater than, you were not my choice. You were my chance. And somehow, in your silence, I found my voice." She read it again and again until her vision blurred. She realized then, love had happened, quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night. 6 months later, Evelyn returned. The city felt the same, but her heart raced as she rode the elevator to their apartment. When the doors opened, Harry was there, standing with flowers, awkward and smiling. She dropped her bag and ran to him. The embrace was long, trembling, wordless, full of everything they hadn't said. Later, as they sat together, she whispered, "You waited." He looked at her gently. "You came back." Just when life seemed steady, fate shifted again. Harry was diagnosed with a rare heart condition, sudden, unpredictable, dangerous. Evelyn's world cracked. Doctors said there were treatments, but no guarantees. Harry, ever calm, tried to soothe her. "Hey," he said softly one night, "we had an unplanned love, remember? Maybe that's the beauty of it. It came when neither of us asked for it." She broke down. "Don't talk like that. I can't lose you." He brushed away her tears. "You won't. Even if you do, you won't." The months that followed were heavy. Hospital visits, medications, fear. Evelyn stopped painting. She couldn't. Her hands trembled too much. Harry grew weaker, but his spirit didn't fade. He wrote her small letters, hidden in drawers, under cups, between books. Each one ended with the same line. "Greater than, when you miss me, close your eyes. I'll be the warmth in your hands." One evening, during a snowstorm, Evelyn found him sitting by the window, pale but smiling. "Come here," he whispered. She climbed into his lap, and he held her tightly. They stayed like that for a long time, her ear on his chest, listening to the slow, fragile rhythm of his heart. Harry passed away in his sleep that night. No drama, no warning, just quiet, like the way he had entered her life. Evelyn woke to stillness. For a moment, she didn't understand why it was so silent. Then she saw his hand resting beside hers, still, peaceful. She didn't scream. She just sat there, holding him, whispering, thank you for coming when you did." Months passed. Evelyn went back to painting. Her new exhibition was called The Power of Embrace. Each painting showed a moment of touch, 2 hands, a resting head, a quiet hug. People wept when they saw them. At the gallery opening, a reporter asked her, "Were these inspired by someone?" She smiled faintly. "By someone who taught me that love doesn't need to be chosen to be true." One evening, while cleaning the closet, Evelyn found one last letter, hidden inside Harry's old jacket. It read, "Greater than, Evelyn. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. But don't be sad. We weren't a story that ended. We were a story that began where neither of us planned. You showed me love isn't fireworks. It's quiet mornings, shared silences, and the way someone looks at you when they think you're not watching. Live, paint, laugh. And when you miss me, hold yourself. That's me, right there, in the embrace." Her tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. She pressed the letter to her heart and whispered, "I love you too." Years later, Evelyn moved to a small house near the sea. Every morning, she sat by the window with her coffee, watching the horizon. Sometimes, she would feel a sudden warmth, like invisible arms wrapping around her. And she would smile, softly, like someone remembering a dream that once was real. Love, she thought, was not about forever. It was about the moments that change you forever. Her life had begun with an arranged marriage, but it had blossomed into unplanned love. And in that love, in its quietness, its pain, its embrace, she had found the truest form of home. Evelyn lived on, carrying his memory, painting her love, and breathing through her sorrow with grace. Their love had not conquered time, but it had conquered emptiness. Because some loves are not meant to last a lifetime. They are meant to remind you what it feels like to be truly alive.